All right, everybody, we are live. Hope you were able to find it. Again, sorry I had to move the link. I posted it out, and then I started getting contacts from teachers who were going, "What's going on?" And I didn't want them to think that this was anything mandatory for them because they've already got enough on them, and they're trying to take summer off. So had to move it. So hopefully you got the new links. Again, I'll repost these videos. Just to kind of let you know, it's gonna be a summer series, and we're trying to do one a week, and it's all about taking Google Apps for Education all the way from the administration building the classroom, and kind of like I put up here, getting the most out of it. And I'll kind of talk more about what that means, but the gist is that I get that a lot of us love Google Apps for Education. A lot of us use many of the tools, but I think a lot of times we miss out on just exactly what all we can get out of it because we don't fully think outside the box. And I'll try and build in some other tools and some other options as well throughout these training sessions. I had this whole plan for a really fun intro video, and I just ran out of time. I actually was almost late for this. I was got in a coding zone. I'm working on automating all our professional development tracking and session setup and all those things to sync with Google Sheets and Google Classroom. Anyways, it's a fun project. Hopefully I can tell you about it really soon. So I'm going to go ahead and dive in. I know some of you are already here. Got the questions up if you want to submit them that way. You can also you can contact me at SchoolCloudMax on Twitter and just kind of talk to me that way. So just want to sort of walk through anything anything you need help. But just to let you know, my name is Buck Baskin. I started out as a special education teacher. Some of you may have watched the previous Hangout and got some of this info. And then I moved, taught math, and then I taught social studies. Then I went to career technology for no other reason than I realized that some of my passions for coding and learning how to code and entrepreneurship, I felt like we're going to serve kids a whole lot better. And so I switched to that department. So I've had a wide range of experience. I'm now an instructional technology specialist. Primary roles being professional development, but recently it has been more about writing programs to help our district initiatives be cost effective, and time effective as well, and just successful in general. So I do work with teachers, a bit in the classroom. I still get to jump in and teach classes. That may be the favorite part of my job. I kind of wrestled with leaving the classroom, and so this kind of gives me the best of both worlds. I get time to work on projects and create, and then still work with students and teachers. I am a web developer for fun. You can see the languages that I mainly focus in on, and really not joking about this, my hobby's been pushing Google Apps for Education really to its limits. When I first started doing this, we were like, hey, can we, start creating some of our own stuff and putting it in-house, and for different reasons and benefits, I would go out and build the web applications that I knew how to build in PHP and things like that. And then from there, I got to thinking, you know what? I wonder if instead of trying to push this stuff out there, if I could instead put it into Google. And so that's kind of become my challenge with everything that I do is how can I make this happen in Google instead of somewhere else? Okay, so for our session today, we are though going to talk about writing in the cloud and meeting student digital portfolios. I know this is kind of a big movement. Some of your districts may be implementing those, and I'd love to hear from you. Some options, through Google Plus, whatever you can share with me, kind of what y'all are doing and how y'all are doing it, and maybe I can kind of share and package some things out as far as some ideas and tips and things like that to even fit your needs better. So I'm going to walk through this kind of like some of you don't even know what a digital portfolio is, and build all the way into those of you that are using them and are just looking for a way to manage it better at a district or classroom level. And just know that's kind of always, if I build anything, if I share anything, I'm always thinking in two worlds. Can this work for teachers, and how does this work for administrators, and trying to do those things. So digital portfolio, what is it? Basically, it's just a digital collection of work. Used to, we might have had to put things together in a binder, maybe for the end of a project. I know for me, I would have to, at the end of the year, turn a folder in of like all my notes and work, and we'd have a folder grade. Some of you may still do that. I failed that grade every single time and got a 0 most of the time because I would just go grab everything in my locker and cram it in the folder. So this is a digital version of that. So I wish I'd been born a few years later, possibly. And so that's kind of what it is. It's just a digital collection of student work. Now, this collection, it can be specific, general, or both. Love how the formatting got jacked up there, huh? So the specific would be for our uses, and kind of what started this session is writing. We have digital writing portfolios. Some schools, and what we're sort of inching towards is a general thing where Yes, the portfolio is set up for a specific purpose, but then you can branch it out and tell kids, hey, this is your portfolio. Here's the things we've created for you and why, but just know you can put things in there too, projects, art, resumes, things like that. Hence, the both option is there as well. Some of y'all maybe, I know we're doing writing. I know some people are doing, art portfolios, coding or STEM portfolios. I've seen a lot of different things. And so that's kind of what it is. Now, the why, you may have your own whys, and I would love to hear some of the reasons as why your district implemented this. I know some of you, I think I've seen it some state requirements. I'm in Texas, so we're kind of a little different because usually, here's what I found. Go ahead and give you the insight for those of you who don't live here in Texas. It's pretty much if there's a new idea, if we didn't come up with it, we don't like it. That's kind of what I've decided. So I know we have to, we have some different standards and laws and policies and curriculum we're using. And I've decided that's just because someone else came up with the other thing and we didn't. So anyways, it's student-friendly assessment, and meaning that, it can be, more than just a fill-in-the-blank test or a one-day thing. And so you can kind of see a broad scope of student growth. And so that's where I say student-friendly assessment. Also, with me, especially in the digital version, for our kids, it's more user-friendly. It's something they can relate to and connect to. Student soft skills that get built into this. Communication. Specifically, if you're doing like a writing portfolio or even an art portfolio, those visual, that writing type communication skills that our kids so desperately need and lack. This is a great way to be able to build that in and then track that growth over time through a portfolio system of some kind. Organization, I struggle with organization to this day. When I do an interview and they say, what's your biggest weakness? I still say organization, and you think I'd have it figured out. Thanks to Google, I've done some things a little better now, but that's just kind of part of it. The collaboration piece of it, you'll see in a second, but with our digital writing portfolios, we did it all on Google Drive because of user friendliness, not having to set up new logins, not worrying about kids changing passwords and not remembering what they are, and then we don't know what they are. But also because of those collaboration pieces where teachers can put in comments and things of that nature. So because I know there's a lot of options for digital portfolios, we stuck with Google because honestly, when I sat down and I was like, we want to make this run, what's the best way? I'm like, I can build it, but if at all possible, I shouldn't have to. So I went and looked at all sorts of different options and web-based tools and software we could buy and download and all sorts of things, and really realized that Google was kind of the best option. Another reason for these portfolios, it's a teacher time saver. Especially depending on what you use, a lot of ownership's put on the kids, but also you can front load a lot of stuff. So if you're a teacher watching this and you're like going, I've heard about portfolios, but I'm nervous about it, it's a big time saver. I know for me, especially like when I started pushing things more digitally, the first year or semester as a teacher, it was hard because there was a lot of front loading and preparation and recreating materials. But then after that, I basically just clicked a button and everything came back out. And I got to where I only had a break as far as a conference period, whatever you want to call it, every other day for about an hour because I took on some extra class loads. And I sat there and read books and hung out because things were running so smoothly. The other reason for me about digital portfolios, and you to know this about me, I'm very more practical. I'm sure a lot of you are, would cite some sources and research, and I will do that from time to time, especially when I think it's necessary because I think that thing's important. But I'm kind of a practical, reality-driven person, partially because of doing entrepreneurship, online businesses, things like that. But the uncertain future, we talk about we're preparing kids for jobs that don't yet exist, but I think we're also preparing them for not knowing what's going to be expected of them as far as qualifications or the timing of it. Where we all pretty much knew, graduate high school, choose a career, go to college. Once you finish college, make sure you've got your resume ready, those kinds of things. To me, for all we know, our kids may have to walk out and immediately go create their own job, or they may need some type of resume, or colleges may wake up one day and decide, hey, guess what, graduating senior, we want a portfolio of work from a lot of different curriculum areas or some writing samples. And so, therefore, you need it, and what if we didn't prepare them for it? So for me, this is just a way to say, hey kids, students, here's an easy way for us to ensure that you have a collection of your work. You can see your growth, which should be encouraging to them, but also just to know that they're ready for whatever lies ahead. If they wake up and say, I want to do a startup or just go find a job, whatever college and whatever that college expects of them, they're ready to go. And so that's another big piece. Now, I didn't put this on there because I know portfolios are a bigger idea than just writing, but since we are focused on writing today, and that's what we're going to look at, um, for me, when I start thinking about writing, and why do a writing portfolio specifically, I got to thinking about how did I learn how to write? And I encourage you to ask yourself that question as well. I only had to write 2 papers in high school. Um, and this may be a knock on my high school, but we had to do 2 papers. I had to do a research paper when I was a sophomore and a literary analysis when I was a senior. They both only had to be 2 pages. Um, and that was it. I never wrote. But then obviously when I went to college, I wrote a lot. And so I got to thinking, I got to where, 15-page papers were nothing. And so I was like, how did I get better at writing? Well, part of it was reading books and seeing how other people wrote, but another part of it was I just did it. I needed opportunities. And so that's a big part of this. And, writing, kids learning to write, which is obviously a valuable skill. You talk to any professor, dean of college, whatever, boss, probably CEO, they're going to say, we need kids who can write, and we have to spend X amount of time retraining them in how to write. So we all know it's important, but then we look at it and we're like, well, how do we do it? It takes a lot of time. I don't know how to grade writing. All these sorts of concerns and things that you're not sure about. Well, that's where, to me, I take this thing to the writing in the cloud, because when you move things to the cloud, meaning, web-based type tools, it takes a lot of that time, takes a lot of the cost out of it. And then when you take that extra step of moving into Google Apps for Education, in this case, Drive, Sheets, and Docs, you can do a whole lot more as far as saving time, user friendliness, collaboration, communication. And so it's really cool. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what happened with us. I'm going to try and be done by 1:30 here because I know your time's valuable. And then again, if you've got questions, if you want to connect with me through Google Plus, through Twitter, whatever, I'd be more than happy. Or you can post them right here in the Hangout. So we started out with this initial vision of we need to learn to teach kids how to write. And so we were like, we need some sort of portfolio system. That was the plan. K through 12, kids has a portfolio that follows them. So I went and looked at all these tools and couldn't find anything that worked, and realized, Google is such a great option for the reasons I've already mentioned. But here's the issue. Google has a lot of great tools for teachers, meaning classroom and things of that nature. And a lot of the add-ons are driven that way. But they also have a lot of great tools for like IT people, which is part of my role. I dabble in the information infrastructure technology side of things. But there's this district administrator type thing where if you're trying to push out a district initiative, they don't necessarily have the tools in place. So we wanted that. We wanted a portfolio system managed in Drive, and we wanted to be able to save students and teachers time. Okay, so because obviously, especially teachers, I was in the classroom. Every time you have a meeting and they say, guess what we're going to do now, you think, oh great, because that's going to go on top of something else you've got to do, right? So you need to always do it in a way that saves time. That's one of my goals always. Anything I build, I want to save people time. The other thing is, for me, with the whole saving students and teachers time, is I thought, okay, this starts out as a district level tool, but how can I mold and shape it into something that students use, or sorry, that teachers can use in their classrooms as well? And so you'll kind of see that. So I'm going to walk you through what we decided as far as we need portfolios, we need kids to write. How can we do this in the most time-effective way, utilizing Google tools? And so I'll show you kind of what we're doing, just hopefully give you some ideas and inspiration for your classroom or for your district. And then also, kind of talk about how I sort of expanded it, took it from the initial vision to something bigger. And that's kind of where this comes in, the usefulness for multiple district needs, so beyond just writing. And then useful for teacher needs, beyond just, the district level initiative, so those classroom type things. So basically what I did is I created an add-on, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff. Drive Portfolio Manager, so you can do everything from creating campuses or classrooms, and I'll kind of talk about that, all the way to changing document names, transferring kids to classes or campuses if they have a schedule change. I know some of you may work in bigger districts if you're thinking a district level thing, and they may move from campus to campus throughout the year. Or as teachers, I know I'd have kids change classes all the time, and so if I had done something digitally, I'd have to go back and drag and move and reshare, and it can be a mess. So just trying to think through all those kinds of scenarios. And the cool thing about this stuff is, and anything else I do, I talk to my teachers about it, and they're like, hey, we think this would be great, and I'm like, that's a great idea, so we'll build it. talk to some other districts about using things like this and other things, and they're like, hey, we wish we had this. So guess what? I build it, and it's passion, it's fun. So I'll kind of walk you through what happens. So you can set up a district or a main folder, a top level folder, and I'll kind of show you the tiers in a second. So, again, the reason for the slashes, it started out district vision, then I thought, you know what, a teacher may want this as well. So we may call it, let's say you're a English teacher, so you may call it English 2 2016, okay, and that's your top level folder. So once you do that, it creates that in Drive. You can see that this is kind of like a database that you can pull from the student information system, your class rosters, all those sorts of things. I'm actually working on adding Classroom. That's part of what I'm doing in my professional development program, is I'm syncing everything Classroom and kind of learning those tools that they've opened up. And so soon you'll be able to import Classroom rosters as well. So anyways, and then you do the next tier. So for us, it started district, campus, grade level, then student. Then I thought, well, there's teachers. So teachers may have, again, ELA or English 2 2016. And then you're going to have, maybe class periods or grade levels or something like that. So typically, I would think it would be class periods. So you could call this one, kindergarten or first or second, or first period, second period, kind of however you want to do it. Okay. So you set that subfolder. And then you can again do another folder name. So you really get to break it down and keep it organized. So that could be, semesters and then class periods, or it could even be if you needed to break it down to these kids are on a certain tier because they have these accommodations. You get that opportunity to break those kids out in different groups too. The other thing I added in, we have a set, rubric we use for our projects. And so I set it to where you can actually pick your own. There's a format it needs to follow if you want to use this grading companion that I've built on the end of it. But that's another option. So, and then you can add up to about 10 fields. You can add more later, but in this initial phase, you can add about 10. So that's kind of what goes on there. And so you go there, you set up the folder, you set up the docs. And so basically here's what happens, and I'll kind of go through here. So if you look up kind of where my mouse is, once you create the top level folder, that's what it is. I called it, I'm going to pretend like my school Cloud Max. Okay, that's the name of my school. Then you do the next tier, which is campus, which is inside of there. You can see the tiers. Then I've got grade levels under that. Inside of every grade level folder, you can see all my student folders. You can also see the grade sheets. So for every assignment you're pre-creating, it also creates a grade sheet. And then inside of those kids folder are their documents where all that info is put on the grade sheet. So everything's automated. It's a click of a button, it's done. So which typically I find a lot of people do in my portfolio, by the end of the year, I want kids to have all of this stuff. You can have that, and again, you can kind of tie a different grade sheet to each folder. So if one class gets some accommodations, another one doesn't, you can use different rubrics. Now, one thing I haven't done yet, because I know that it could get messy, is I thought about adding a different rubric for each document. Because basically what it does is it copies it, and so you could even copy instructions or whatever you want it to be. But I worry about being messy in too many steps. So, if any of you got any thoughts or feelings about that, wouldn't mind kind of talking or discussing through whatever channel we want to use. Whether you think it'd be beneficial for you to be able to use a different rubric for each individual assignment, because it's just an extra step. Like I could do it, but I kind of felt it would be too much. So that's kind of what happens. So this is a district level thing. Let's picture it's a classroom. ELA 2016. Okay, and then you could have some class periods if you wanted to, first period, blah, 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 or however you want to do it. And then you could break it down further into, honors, basic resource, whatever you may call it, and then students. Or you could, choose, whole other options. So but you have these tiers, and again, it generates it, builds it. It's all click of a button. It's good to go. Okay. Now, other thing you can do is you can archive. Obviously, for a district level thing, you want to be able to archive and bring it from year to year to be able to track data. But even for a teacher, I know for me, especially when I had special education students in my classroom, I needed to be able to know from year to year, keep track of good data on what they'd done, what I offered them, accommodations, things like that. And I was terrible about keeping up with things. I would have it, but usually be in a big pile. And so this way, from year to year. And so when you archive, it'll actually create a folder inside of that. In this case, let's go with the grade level folder, and it'll say, 2015, 2016, first grade grade sheets or whatever it may be for you. So it'll create that archive. You can also see that it tracks all these things where you can go in and change names and all sorts of stuff. Um, you can also control the sharing. So we can, as a district, or now my teachers, I've opened up this for them as well, they can control and share folders out and then bring them back. So that way the kids got some access and ownership, but there's still a little bit of control because students are students and you don't want to let them, run free like the Wild Wild West. Um, and then, also you can promote them. So if you do need to push them, let's say you as a teacher want to share with another teacher, like your whole department, or from a bunch of grade levels. If you're a larger district or smaller district like ours, where it's one per, pretty much one English teacher per grade level, one math teacher, one art or STEM teacher, things like that, you could do, promote it and then share the folders, and everything's good to go. So a lot of options and flexibility to do a lot of different things and to be able to work together, which again, it's all about collaboration. Now the cool thing is, again, on the end of this, there's each grade sheet. When you open up, you can launch this grading app, and this actually pulls in the data from your rubric. This is mine, but whatever yours was at the bottom, it'll pull it up in there. And so you just click through grades, you can search for names, add comments, it updates it, and you're just flying through. And then from there, when you're ready, you can send the feedback to all the kids, or if you see this form on the right, you can do it to individual kids. So everything is pretty much automated, from the creation to the grading to the feedback. What I love about the fact too that it's a live document is you can insert comments, and this has been the cool surprise thing I didn't know about, which I think is a great thing as far as digital portfolios go, is you build that collaboration piece with students to be able to talk back and forth about writing or art or code or whatever it may be. And with the comments, they get email notifications, everything's back and forth, it's good, it's fine. But the other bonus thing is that kids who typically would be nervous or afraid maybe to go talk to a teacher, they're not anymore usually digitally. And so you can talk back and forth. So again, all automated, all those benefits, all those things. So, kind of to sum up, if you're not using digital portfolios, I hope you will. Again, whether you're in a district position or a classroom position, because I think there's benefits for our kids. One thing, we're transitioning all of our teachers to Google Classroom over the next year or so. And the reason being, as I told them, our kids are going to have to live in a digital world and collaborate in it and submit assignments, and be it at college or at work. And if we're not putting them in that environment now, we're doing a disservice to them. But so that's one piece of it, and that's one piece why I think hopefully you'll consider this digital portfolio thing, because kids are going to learn those skills of collaboration, communication, organization, all those kinds of things. And then again, doing it digitally, specifically in Google, you save so much time for you. So I hope you'll kind of consider that. If you've got questions, feel free to contact me. If you'd like to talk about, if you think this would work for your district and get a little bit more of a demo, I'd love to kind of walk you through my add-on and kind of how I've done it and how we're using it, to sort of kind of talk about your needs. We'll be working on another session. My next session next week is going to be about communication. So utilizing Google for communication. We typically used to pay for a program. Now we can do it all through Google, and I'll kind of show you how we do that as well. And so again, you'd think, oh, that's more of an administrative thing, but guess what? That's also a classroom thing, and I'll kind of show you how it's got benefits over some other tools that we've used and kind of the why. So hope you enjoy the session. I'll continue to work on it. I'll work on making this more exciting, throwing some music, some videos, some things like that. We'll keep talking about more topics. If you got questions about what I showed you, future topics, or really anything, I'd love to help you. One of my favorite things about my job is serving teachers. And helping fellow people in more of an administrative role, and so I'd love to talk to you about that anytime. Hope you enjoy the rest of your afternoon or whenever you're watching this, and we will talk soon. And again, just keep pushing yourself, keeping a district open mind about what can we really do, what's possible, and don't just settle for what someone says you've got to get or what's already out there. Kind of keep thinking through how can you use what tool can you find to make things better, and I'd love to work with you in that journey.